Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the go-to platform where faith-driven entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and experts share their stories, wisdom, and expertise to inspire and impact others. This isn't just another interview series. This is a strategic platform designed to amplify the voices of high-level entrepreneurs, which especially includes kingdom entrepreneurs who are making a real difference in their industries. My goal is simple: to serve you, the expert, by giving you a stage to share your message, expand your reach, and create lasting value for others. Through authentic, in-depth conversations, we uncover the real journeys, challenges, and victories behind today's leading experts. Each interview isn't just content. It's a powerful asset that helps you to establish authority, increase visibility, and connect with the right people. So with that, let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to yet another interview here. And today I've got a special guest. I've got Chris Riddle here, and he is a Christ follower with a goal of sharing the gospel through financial education. He is a single dad of 7 children, and everything he does is for their future. He's working a job in manufacturing while building his financial firm, and his firm is focused on empowering families to become financially free. What he teaches is the tools that the wealthy know and use to grow their wealth. And now he is about to teach the average Joe these same tools. He is also looking for like-minded individuals who see what he teaches as a need and he's looking for people that want to join his crusade. So welcome, Chris. So glad you are here on today's episode. And so what I'd like to do, so a couple of things, how I want to start here. So I want to start with you unpacking your story, how you got here, why this is such a passion, and all the things, and why this is a God call on your life, especially. And then after you get done with your story, I want to dive into these first 2 questions. First of all, what is the Rule 72? Because I actually kind of still am a little unclear on that. And also, how do you buy term and invest the difference? So first, let's start with your story.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. I appreciate Ken letting me come on today and go through some stuff. It's so much stuff that I teach people, so this is just a little snippet today, but I think it's some of the most important things. But going into my story some, how I got started doing what I'm doing. At the time, I was working a different manufacturing job, and I was introduced to the company I'm working with by a friend, and just I took a look and see what it was, and um, I was a little hesitant at first, to be honest with you, because I have worked in the field of life insurance in the past, and
Uh-huh.
at the time I was like, I don't ever want to do that again because it's a tough gig. Some people don't like talk about life insurance and stuff, but what I did find out is I was taught incorrectly about how life insurance works and so forth. And when I got started help working in the company I'm working with now, and an opportunity to build my own firm inside of it. Um, some people may have heard of the company. It's by the name of Primerica. They've been around for a while, and I'm so glad to be partnered with them. They have such a great track record, coming up, getting close to 50-year anniversary of the company. But I saw so many different areas of how I could help families more than just life insurance. And one of the things that got my eye the biggest was something called the Rule 72. And what I learned from that helped me open up and learn how investing worked. And one of the biggest things that we do teach people is about buying term insurance and investing the difference. Now, what that concept is the typical industry. When you talk about life insurance, the industry likes to push something called whole life insurance. And it's called whole life insurance because basically they want you to have it for your entire life. what I learned when I got started with Primerica is life insurance is not for your entire life. It's for a period of time until you get to the point where you don't need it anymore. And it was a whole nother concept I've never even heard before, but I thought it was amazing because it was the only company I've ever seen that would provide a product but teach you how to get rid of it. So what I'm talking about there is life insurance is to take care of a need, and that need is income protection. If a family, especially if it's one income earner in the family, usually it's the dad, were to pass away, that income that was coming in is no longer coming in anymore, and that family has to make some harsh decisions. Especially if there's children involved, sometimes they have to move into a different home because they can't afford the home they're living in now. Sometimes the activities that they had planned for the children, whether in sports or different clubs, they can't do those things anymore because that money's not coming in.
Mm.
And the surviving spouse typically has to pick up extra work and so forth. But if they had a program in place that replaced that income, at least until the kids were grown, that problem doesn't happen. It's bad enough that the loved one's not here anymore, but now, at least financially, they can still take care of their family. And term insurance is so much more affordable because it's just strictly insurance and it covers that need. Whole life insurance is sold with a fancy thing that comes with it called, and they say savings is attached to the program. What they don't teach people is a lot of things, and I learned this myself through the process because, like I said, I worked in life insurance in the past, and I did sell whole life insurance at the time. But as an agent, I won't even taught how it worked. I learned how it actually works, and unfortunately, it's not sold correctly because it's not people aren't being educated about how it works. So there is savings that can accumulate inside the policy, and there's different types of whole life insurances out there. They got all kinds of fancy names, but basically, it takes 2 to 3 years typically for you to see savings grow inside of those. They typically only grow at a rate of return between somewhere around 3 and 5%.
Mhm.
So it's not a very high rate of return you're getting off of the savings as it is. But the biggest kicker is when you pass away, there is a death benefit. Your family receives the death benefit. Kim, what do you think happens to the savings inside the policy?
My first guess off the top of my head is it goes away.
It, the insurance company takes it, but
Yeah.
it's sold on the preferences that you have savings inside the policy. So it's your money, right? But why is it that you can't have both?
Mm.
Why is it that when you pass away, your family doesn't also get that savings? So whole life insurance is also usually 2 to 3 times more expensive than term life insurance is, and it's harder to provide the full need for the income protection. So we teach people buy term insurance is more affordable. It's strictly insurance. And then we can build a savings outside of that through a better program through investments such as mutual funds and other investment vehicles that's going to give you a better rate of return. And you can put a beneficiary on both of those programs. So now if something were to happen and you were to pass away, your family not only gets the death benefit from the life insurance policy, which is going to take care of that need that it's there for. But the savings that was accumulated also goes to your family because you can put a beneficiary on both programs. So it's just much more ideal. And typically, we can, I come across people all the time that have these whole life programs. Recently, just helped a family, and that was in a program like this. Literally took the same amount of money that they were spending on their current program, took them out of the whole life insurance policy, put them in a term policy that provided more of a need than they were currently getting. Plus, we was able to take the savings and put it in another safe position and save that person $150 per month on
Mm.
what they were currently spending on
Wow.
the program. So it's more affordable and it's just going to perform better. Now, the rule of 72 is a cool tool because when you're looking at investments and savings and so forth, that is a basically it's a math equation where if you take the interest rate you're earning off of whatever type of account you have, and you divide that into the number 72, that tells you how many years it's going to take for your money to double in that account.
Okay.
So basically, it gives you some quick, simple math. If you're earning 3% off our account, it's going to take 24 years for any money in that account to double. And say 6%, it's going to take 12 years, and so on. So, the higher rate of return you get, obviously, typically is the better. But the rule of 72 can show you the impact that interest rate can make on your money. And I teach people how you can get better rates of returns out there and where you can find those at because there is better out there.
Right, right. Now, that leads me to so originally I had another question I was going to ask you after those two, but as you were talking, I came up with a question. So, for people who, okay, don't have life insurance yet, maybe they come to you. And how do you handle people that are on a very tight budget? They don't have a whole lot of extra money to be spending extra month. Like maybe they might be able to squeeze an extra $70 a month to throw into a policy like that. How do you handle somebody that's on a budget and really strict, on a budget, but kind of wants, hey, and also I'll throw in another factor. What if, let's say the person is 50 years old. All right. How would you handle that particular kind of person? How would you help them to get a term policy and not end up in a spot with their budget to where they're way too tight now? If you're getting kind of what I'm throwing down.
Oh yeah, totally understand that. So that's a great question because the family I was just speaking on, that's exactly the situation that was. Most of the people I'm working with is the average Joe. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They don't have a whole lot of money sitting to the side each month to roll over into the next month. So here's the cool thing that I do. Instead of just being a life insurance agent or an investment advisor or those different titles that's out there in the financial world, I work more as a financial coach. I look at the entire financial house for a family. We're going to take a look at what's the budget look like? Where's money going every month? We're going to take a look at, do you have life insurance in place? If so, let's take a look, make sure it's adequate. If not, maybe we need to make an adjustment. If you don't, then will visit that and talk about, why don't you have it? Because there's typically three reasons why people don't have life insurance. One, they couldn't afford it. Two, they didn't understand what the need is for it. Or three, they just didn't get around to doing it yet. That's usually the three reasons that I come across. And then I'll ask which one of those applies to you. That kind of gives me an idea of what direction to go. But there's cases where we also help out in areas such as auto and home insurance. We also teach people how to pay their debts off faster and so forth. So sometimes by taking a look at the full financial house, we can make adjustments to what they're currently doing with their money and free up maybe an extra $50 a month, $100 a month that now we have to take care of a program like a life insurance policy that needs to be in place
Mm,
because that's the foundation of your financial house. If you don't have that in place, then all the other things that are great programs don't even matter because if something happens to you before you get your savings built up, that's what the life insurance is for. Now, sometimes people can't afford to get the policy that covers their adequate need, but something is better than nothing. If we can do something that, hey, $50 a month, that's all you can afford, completely understand that. We might not be able to get that $1 million policy that's really going to take care of things. And it's like, the Rolls Royce of the situation that you need.
right.
But maybe we can take care of 200 grand. That's something. It's better than nothing. And then as someone's income increases and as we are able to help in other areas, sometimes we can free up enough money later on that maybe we can increase that.
Right.
The
Right.
other thing that's pretty cool is actually, like I mentioned earlier, to teach people how to actually get rid of it by helping them on the area of the savings and investments and growing their wealth. You get to a point where you shouldn't need life insurance anymore. So one cool thing that I'm able to do with the policies I use to help families with is that every year we can reevaluate, take a look at their situation, and we can decrease. their insurance amount
Mm.
as we take a look as the wealth is growing. And that cost per month goes down when we do that. So we can cut down on the cost per month for that policy as we're increasing the wealth, because the wealth is something that goes to your family as well if something happens. So, for instance, if we started with $1 million policy and over the next, say, 10 years, we helped you accumulate over a quarter million dollars. You don't need $1 million policy anymore. We can reduce that down to say $750,000. Now, of course, it's up to the family to decide, hey, do they want to do that or do they feel comfortable keeping that policy in place? Totally understand that. But if money is still that tight, let's reduce the coverage a little bit because you don't need this much anymore because your savings is taking up some of that need now. And the costs will come down each month and help free the budget up some more. So it's a lot of different ways that we can work things around to make it work for a family.
Fascinating. Now, the other thing you mentioned that I was just like, how does that work? Is you mentioned that you also help people by looking at their auto policies and different things
Mm-hmm.
like that. What does that look like? Because I know, like somebody like me, um, we've been around the block a few
Mm-hmm.
times with car insurance companies.
Right.
And we've tried to find good ones, but reasonably priced and different things like that. And we still think
Mm-hmm.
we pay way too much for auto insurance. So, what
Oh
does that
yeah.
look like, especially when you come across somebody who has been around the block? They've been with different car insurance companies before. They can't find anything that's cheaper. And as a matter of fact, we just switched our auto insurance company from what was it? I think it was the company called Connect with Costco. And here's the thing
Mm-hmm.
with Costco programs, what we find is they're great for the first 1 to 2 years. And then when
Mm-hmm.
that special contract ends, it's
Oh
like
yeah.
game
The
over.
cost goes up.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So we went away from Connect and we're with Progressive right now. And
Mm-hmm.
Progressive was literally like 20 bucks less.
Oh
But the
yeah.
reason why we went away from Connect is because with Connect, they were raising it every 2 years, 200
Mm-hmm.
bucks. And we're just like, no, we're not doing that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, how does that work?
Yeah. So I don't work directly when it comes to the auto and home insurance. There's a referral company I use for that, and they're great. The name of that company is called Answer Financial. I love using them because you're not going to get a sales pitch from them. If I ever have that issue happen, I will not, use whatever agent that was connected with them because I don't want that for my clients. I don't like being a salesperson. I'm an educator, and I don't like anyone selling to my clients. So what happens is they work with over 40 different major carriers all over the country. And basically, what I do is I set up a phone call for them to contact the family that I'm working with. And over the phone, they'll ask some questions. I usually recommend that the family have their current policy at hand so that they can reference what they currently have as far as coverage. And then they can let the representative know, hey, I'm looking for this in my coverage. I'm looking to save money, different things. And what I really like about them is, they're not always able to help save money, but what they'll do is they'll let them know, look, we can't beat what you currently got. So the great news is you're in the best program you can be in. But check back with us every 6 to 12 months. Because the auto and home insurance industry is very competitive with each other, they change their rates all the time. But when's the last time your auto insurance company called you to let you know that your bill went down? Right.
Never.
They never. They drop their rates all the time, but they don't let the current customers know, hey, our rates are cheaper, so we're going to give you a cheaper premium.
Yeah.
They do that because they're competing with other companies to get into certain zip codes. But the current customers don't get to take advantage of that. So unfortunately, it is one of those things you got to shop around on.
Hmm.
But Answer Financial will check every 6 months for you and just do the shopping on your behalf. They'll look at the different ones and see if there's a better program for you and see you haven't spent all that time doing that.
Right. Right. Interesting.
Mhm.
Um, all right. So one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, because I think this is a really important question to ask, because I feel like,
Okay.
especially when it comes to financial education and different things like that, the church is kind of dropping the ball on this. So, why do you believe
Mhm.
financial education is one of the most overlooked discipleship tools in the church today?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's gotten, unfortunately, people have gotten the wrong idea when it comes to wealth, and they believe that. I think some people have got the wrong idea to the thinking that having money and being in a good financial position and stuff like that isn't following God for some reason,
Hmm.
which is totally the opposite. Because there's
Right.
so much stuff in the Bible that talks about wealth and finance. I'm not as well versed on the different Bible verses, but I know there's a parable in there where Jesus is talking to the rich man, and he asked him, would he drop everything and come follow him? And I think that's where everybody's getting hung up at. It wasn't about the rich man dropping everything and that he couldn't have wealth. That's not what it was about. What it was about was would he be willing to give up what he was holding on to and
Mm,
follow Jesus?
yeah.
Jesus would have gave him his wealth back. That's what people are missing. Because when we tithe, that the tithe isn't just a thing we're supposed to do. It's sowing a seed into the kingdom, and God gives that back to us tenfold if we truly sow that seed and we pray over that seed. Tithing, finances is a big part. God teaches us different ways on how to do our finances and so forth.
Yeah.
But building wealth, I think, unfortunately, the church they it seems to be a fine line in different conversations. But I know a lot of people out there probably know who Dave Ramsey is, and believe it or not, Dave Ramsey actually used to work with our company back in the day. So I kind of think he got some of the concepts he's learned from our company. Can't take credit for all of it, but he teaches biblical principles about finance. Now, our company also has leads with biblical principles as well because the emblem for our company there's three rings and it's red, white, and blue, but the rings mean God first, family second, business third. That's what they stand
Mm,
for.
awesome.
So not everybody that works in my company is Christian and so forth, but the company itself is Christian founded, and but I follow those principles when I'm working with families. And like you mentioned earlier, that is an awesome goal of mine. Is I see this as a ministry as well.
Mm.
So sometimes I might be meeting with a non-believer and someone could be on the edge. And if I see that opportunity, I'll share my faith with them in a not in a pressuring way, but people notice something about you. And I look at it as an opportunity to share that. But I hope I'm answering your question. I feel like I kind of jumped around a little bit there.
No, I mean you're definitely answering the question. I want to take it a little bit deeper now, though. What
Okay.
financial lies are most people unknowingly living under right now in the church and in people you see out there? So let's start with the church first.
That's a pretty good question. Financial lies. Um, I think the biggest lie is that some people are having a hard time seeing themselves actually saving and accumulating wealth,
Mm, mm,
and that if we have so much wealth, you're looked at. You can't be rich because if rich people are evil, that's a big lie that's out there.
mm,
You look at very successful people out there, and unfortunately, the country itself is there's a lot of people out there that look at people with wealth as bad people that they had to have done bad things to get there. And that's just completely untrue because every time if you deep dive and look into people who are very successful and wealthy, it's usually there's one factor that seems to be with all of them. Usually they're married. That seems to be a big factor. Not all of them, but the majority of them are married. And it seems to be a lot of them actually follow biblical principles, and at least on the moral side. But I'm trying to think. Another lie I could see there is probably when it comes to actually being charitable and giving. That some people believe that you know, putting out, just because you have all this money means that you should be giving so much money away. Whereas I understand things that God actually wants us to be wealthy. He wants us to have reserves. But don't mistake the fact that if he asks for it, you are supposed to give it. But you're not obligated to give just because you have. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot. And unfortunately, I think people who are not in wealthy positions actually block themselves and keep themselves in a position of poverty because they feel like that wealthy people are they only got there because of unjust ways and so forth.
Let's be clear on that, though. So there are these elites out there that are
Hmm.
wealthy because of evil things that they've done.
That's true. I mean, there
But
are
there,
those out there too.
yeah, but there is a major majority of people that I really feel like that are wealthy, and they're wealthy with a good heart, with a good mind,
Yeah.
and they're
I
doing the
mean,
good
I
things.
personally know
Yeah.
a lot of wealthy people through the business that I work in, and they have huge hearts. All they talk about is
Yeah.
helping people. And every time you turn around, you hear about them doing something for people, or they've started their own charity or charitable organizations to help families in different situations, or maybe disabled people and so forth. It's like I've seen that world of people who have large wealth and what they do with their money. But here's a good one right here, because a lot of people say, and then this is where a wrong understanding, that the money is the root of all evil. That's the wrong statement. The love
So
of money
twisted. Yeah.
is the root of all evil. Being in love with money is the problem. There's nothing wrong with having money, because good people can do good things with money and bad people can do bad things with money. All money does is show people who you really are.
Mm.
When you get a lot of wealth, it'll expose your heart.
It's the heart behind it. Money
Yeah.
itself is not evil. Money cannot be evil. Money does not have a
It's just
soul.
it's a tool. It's an
Yeah,
object.
it's an object. Same with, other things. Same with guns. Guns are not
Right.
evil. It's the person that's
Exactly.
behind the gun
Person
that
behind it. Gun
yeah,
itself can't do anything without the operator.
exactly. Exactly. It's just, and the other thing I see out there, especially in the church, is almost, I mean, it's not specifically said, but it's almost, you kind of feel it around. It's, it's holy to be just barely making it. Poverty is like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like poverty is put on a pedestal. Like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this is what you're not supposed to be rich or wealthy in the church. Uh, if you really look at it, I find a problem with that because our God is a God of
Hmm.
abundance. He did not
Exactly.
call us to live a life of poverty.
No.
Yeah,
He doesn't want us to be barely getting by. And I think some people are getting that misunderstanding from another Bible, another story of the Bible, and Jesus was involved in this, and where the lady was, she gave her last two coins, and he gave her so much credit because it wasn't about the fact that she gave her just because she gave her last two. It's because she gave all she had.
hmm,
She gave from her heart. She didn't think about how it was going to affect her. She gave because she felt called to give. And I think so many people look at it the wrong way, to think that, you've got to be barely getting by. And so that when you give, you're giving so much of yourself, you're making such a huge sacrifice, or else it doesn't matter. And I think people are getting the wrong understanding from that passage. What
100%.
what Jesus is trying to get people to understand is she gave from her heart. Someone at her level of wealth, and compared to someone who's super wealthy, is on two different scales. But if they've given out of their heart, they're given the same amount.
That's huge. That is so huge. Um, Let me ask you this one because I think this one is also like just huge in this. Why do emotions, so not math, why do emotions drive most money decisions? I think that's a really powerful question to
Yeah,
ask here.
that's true. I mean, that's usually, man, it's so hard to get some people to get on the right path because emotions do get in the way. And I think it's because of our desire to want this. And, especially with the world today, it's so much stuff out there to have. We got stuff popping up in our face all the time. The new, you know, the next iPhone or the new video game or
Uh,
all this fashion, all these clothes or nice cars, all that stuff. And not that any of that stuff, not that anything's wrong with that stuff, but that is an issue when people use their emotions too much because they want those things so much. And it's because I think they're idolizing those things and they're putting them before God instead of following God's principles. And you get those out of then you're able to have those things because of the abundance that God has blessed you with,
hmm,
not out of what you should have been paying a bill with or what you should have been given to God because he called you to give that to him because he needed it for the church.
right.
And instead you was being selfish and you idolized that iPhone more than you did God. And I think that's where emotions get in the way the most there. And I think it's influences from the enemy because if he can keep us caught up in our emotions, in our um sadness or frustration because we don't have what we want, if he can keep us caught up in those little bubbles, then we're not focused on God. We're not keeping our eyes on God. We're not in close of a relationship with him because I think that's another issue that people have today, and the church, not the whole church, is not preaching like they should. It's about having a relationship with Jesus. It's not about
Amen.
Christianity. It's not a religion. It's a
Yes.
relationship
Amen.
with Christ. When he came to earth and walked this earth, he was like a brother to all of us. And that's the kind of relationship Jesus wants with us. He wants to be like a brother to us. God is our father, Jesus is our brother. And I think so many people are getting the wrong message and thinking that it's all about doing good works in order to get to heaven and so forth. Jesus himself said, those who you have to go through him to get into heaven. And if you go to the gates and he looks at you and you talk about all these good works in this, but if he says, but I never knew you, you're not getting in. He wants a relationship with you. And if you're putting all these other things ahead of him, you're blocking yourself from that relationship.
100%. Oh, so good. So very good. Now, as we start kind of like getting towards the end here, I want to ask you this question here. What's a real life example where the rule of 72 opens somebody's eyes instantly?
Mm-hmm. Wow. I mean, it's like I have this experience every time I meet with someone because the first time I meet with them, I give them a general overview about what it is that I do. And the rule of 72 is one of the first things that I teach. And it's been so cool. Like, I'll speak on the same client I've been talking about. When I went through that with her, she was like, wow. Because, first of all, one of the rates of returns we do talk about in that, because we use an example, is a 12% rate of return.
Hmm.
And that sounds high to some people. It sounded high to me the first time I saw it. I was like, I've never seen that.
That sounds
I'm thinking
incredible,
about,
actually. I'm like,
yeah,
whoa, okay, cool.
yeah, it does sound incredible. But most people have probably heard of the S&P 500 before. And what
I
that is,
haven't.
for those who don't know, it's the Standard and Poor's of the top 500 companies in the U.S. You see it on the news all the time. You see the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. That's one of those indexes. And what it does is it tracks the top 500 companies in North America and looks at their performances and stuff. Now you can't invest directly into the S&P 500, but a lot of investments and profiles are built based off of that, and they use the companies as in that index to build investment profiles. But if you look at the S&P 500, the last 50 years, now anybody can do a Google search and look at this. If they'll search average rate of return last 50 years for the S&P 500, it's going to come up with almost 12% rate of return.
Mm.
So if you was invested in those companies for the last over the last 50 years, that's the rate of return you would have been getting. So when I talk about 12% when I'm going through the rule of 72, a $2,000 investment in an account that's earning around 12% rate of return, just a one-time investment over 48 years grows to over a $500,000.
Wow.
That's the power of being properly invested. And when I show that to someone like this recent client that I showed that to, her eyes got so big. She was like, "Whoa, that's amazing." And then now I have her in investments that are performing like that. And even one even better because I had a client that I helped back in the summer, and he's been like my biggest success story so far, and it's so cool because he was sitting in um, fixed annuities when I was helping him with his retirement, and those programs that he was sitting in was barely earning any kind of rate of return, and there's fees inside those programs as well. So really the fees was eating up any kind of growth he was getting, and he was actually losing money in his
Mm.
investment. He didn't even know it because he didn't understand how it worked. Because the problem is people are being sold things and not being taught how they work. So I taught him how it worked, and then once he understood that, he was like, "Man, I don't want to be in this no more. What do I do?" I moved him into a mixture of some mutual funds and something called a buffer annuity, which is a variable annuity, totally different than a fixed annuity. And that product is pretty awesome because it actually gives you a protection to where you can be aggressively invested, like in something like the S&P 500. And but there's a floor. So if the market drops up to 20% below zero, he's protected to where he doesn't lose any money. It's pretty awesome. Now the market's actually done pretty good this year. What's really cool, I was just taking a look at his investments earlier today. Since this summer, he has gained he's gone from losing money on his retirement to I've helped him make almost $10,000 since the summer on his retirement.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty amazing. And when I went through the rule of 72 with him too, and he had the same response. Like he didn't realize there was such thing as like a 12% rate of return out there and stuff. By the way, you can get higher than 12% rate of return, but I don't try to show too big of a numbers because it seems so unrealistic.
Yeah,
I like to do something called under promise, over deliver. If usually when I run illustrations for someone, it's more based off of 9%. I'm being really conservative with people. But if I told you that you're looking at getting close to 9%, now you can't guarantee investments, but you got 12%, would you be upset with me? You
right.
know?
No, yeah.
So I mean it's pretty cool. The rule of 72 is it's pretty amazing because it just helps people have more of an understanding. It's knowledge that the wealthy people have. And I'm just bringing knowledge that the wealthy people have to the average Joe.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Last question I have for you as we begin wrapping up, my friend, is what are 3 to 5 things you would like to leave a listener with today? Whoever, finds this on their feed as you share it out or whatever, what do you want to leave them with today? What are 3 to 5 powerful things that you want to leave them with?
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of different concepts that I teach. And I do believe I sent over a link with um
Yes,
to a
that's going to be my
digital.
next question after that. How can
Yeah.
people get into your world? But
Okay.
first, let's do
That'd
this
be
one.
great. You said
Yeah.
I'll touch on that in a minute then. So one of probably the first thing that I would advise people to do, and it does take some discipline to make this change, but pay yourself first. And what I mean by that is you should be saving at least 10% of your income. If you can do 20%, even better. But save that first. Now, obviously, following biblical principles, your first 10% goes to God. But after that, the next 10% should go to savings. And that can be towards your retirement, your emergency fund, um, other types of savings that you have set up. Sometimes you might want to set an account up where you're saving towards a large purchase like a home down the road and so forth. But 10% of your income needs to go to that at least, because that's going to put you in a position to where you're not charging the credit cards when it comes to the emergency fund when emergencies come up. You've got money sitting to the side because you've been saving it. So the car breaks down, the wash machine messes up. You got to go to the doctor unexpectedly. Now you got a doctor's bill that you weren't expecting to pay. You can use that money to cover that instead of putting yourself in more debt. That's a big principle. Another thing would be is when it comes to credit cards, it's my best advice to give people for credit cards. And credit cards can get you in trouble, but you can also be smart in how you use them because having good credit does get you a long ways and actually does affect your auto and home insurance. A bad credit score will cause your auto and home insurance to cost more. Once you get your credit score higher, you get better rates. But never spend more than 30% of the balance on a credit card. As far as when I'm talking about your credit limit, never spend more than 30% of that. If you do, it actually starts affecting hurting your credit score. And what I also advise people to do when it comes to credit cards is use it to purchase gas with each month, but pay it off before the end of the month, and then you don't have to pay the interest that's coming from that card because credit card interest rates are pretty high. It's
Yeah,
really
they are.
ridiculous how high they are.
Oh my
Rule
God.
72 can work against you as well because when you're looking at debt, the interest rate on the debt, you know, that can tell you how long it's going to tell you to pay that debt off. Just like when you're looking at investments, how long it takes for your money to grow. I'm trying to think of another one. Probably the debt stacking principle, and it's going to be hard for me to explain that as much without visuals, but that link will talk about it more. But teach one of the things I teach people when it comes to paying your debt off is stacking your debt. And what I mean by that is, let's say you've got four different debts you're working on. Let's say it's a car payment, you got your mortgage, maybe you got a credit card, a couple credit cards you're working on. Now I have a program that I plug those numbers in for someone, and it's an algorithm, and it'll figure out what's the best one to pay off. But let's just say it says, hey, the credit cards, work on those first, and then your car payment, and then the mortgage. The way the program works is focus on credit card one. Once you get that paid off, keep spending the same amount of money each month on your debt. Don't take that money and start putting it somewhere else. You stack it on top of the next thing you're working on, and you keep following that process until all the debt is gone. And I've been able to show people how to do that and be able to, just by adjusting what they're currently doing and how they're paying their debt, show them that through that program, they've been able to pay their debt off up to 100 years faster.
Oh,
It's
wow.
it's it's a pretty huge impact, and it's all with you're not spending any extra money per month, and you're already spending. It's just being smarter about how you use the money.
That is amazing. That is so amazing.
Yes.
Now, my next question and last question for you. How can people get into your world? How can people work with you? How can people start following you? If they want to connect with you, how can people do that?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I have shared a couple of links that you'll put out with the video. I understand, and
Mhm.
one of those links is actually going to give access to our digital um, book called "How Money Works," and it has all the principles inside it that I teach. So people can go through it. There's some videos in there you can watch and stuff. So a lot of educational material, but also inside of there my contact information is going to be inside those links with my phone number, my email, and then also my calendar link is connected. So if you want to schedule time with me to to go into more details, and I do something called a financial needs analysis that's completely free, doesn't cost people anything to get the education I provide is completely free. I don't charge for the financial education. If there's questions about how I make money, of course I do make money, but I can go through that when I meet with someone. And then also I am on social media is on I've got an Instagram account.
Mm.
It's Christopher.riddle.50, I believe is what it is. I'll put some stuff out there here and there, but some of it's family, some of it's business stuff. But that's another way to reach out to me. But and so forth. But the biggest thing is my phone number is inside those links and my email. They're probably the best way to contact me.
Amazing. You guys, all that information is going to be in the description below this video. So his bio will be in there. And then all the links to connect with him, get into his world, and work with him or follow him, whatever you want to do. And I actually lied. I've got one more question that just popped in my
Okay.
head, actually, at the last minute. Um, have you thought about writing a book on all of this and the knowledge and how you help people?
I actually haven't, but I can see probably in the future that would be something I would do. There are some of the people that are mentors of mine that do. They've written some books. Um, One by the name of Ron Weber. He's a mentor of mine, and he's kind of I consider him to be an investment guru. He's got a couple books that he's put out there. They're pretty thin, but they're really quick, simple, and
Mm.
some investment principles inside of there. A lot of great information. Um, if anyone's interested in maybe taking a look at those books, they can definitely reach out to me and let me know, and I can see how I can get them access to it.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, sorry. Just a random question that I had to ask. I was just like,
Oh,
oh,
it's no
I wonder
problem.
if he's, that would be a great idea. So, anyhow,
Hmm.
you guys, like I said, all the links to connect with him are going to be in the description below this video. So, get into his world, connect with him, follow him, book a discovery call with him. See what he maybe can strategize with you. I'm pretty sure a call like that is free.
Yeah,
Um,
it's completely free.
get into his world. You got nothing to lose, guys. So I'm going to really encourage you guys to connect with him. Lastly, you guys, so maybe this is your first time seeing anything from me. And you're just like, well, that's great for Chris, but who's this Ken guy? Well, my story is I've lost 62 and a half pounds and I've been able to keep that off for 6+ years now, or 7+ years now, all without a diet and having that be sustainable. But how? How did I become the 5% of people that have been able to keep their weight off for good and sustainably and without a diet? Well, I am going to tell you what it's not. Okay. It's not about a diet. It's not about some crazy list. It's not about a bunch of shakes. It's not about spending thousands of dollars on supplements like I know some people have done, and then they end up disappointed because it's not quite working the way they want. It's not about a shot, and it's certainly not about some kind of weight loss drug like Ozempic. No, no, no. Right now, I'm giving away my 3 secrets to help you feel energized, lose weight, and get healthy without starving or dieting. In just 3 one-on-one sessions with me, I expose the 3 biggest lies that is keeping people sick, stuck, and overweight because that is how that industry makes money. And I show them how they can fuel their body God's way so they can finally break free and keep the weight off for life sustainably, like I've been able to do without a diet. And so much so, without a diet, I also have a book out. You can find this on Amazon, you guys. Check it out. It's only 149 pages or 150 ish pages. Very easy read. It'll give you a really good overview of my philosophy, what I teach, and what I stand for. My boot camp is very reasonably priced. I've priced it that way because I want to take out a particular factor. I want to take out the I got to ask my spouse. And so it is reasonably priced. Hey, ladies, I know you easily drop $200 on an outfit and you don't ask your spouse. And guys, like we got plenty of accessories that we easily spend $200 on without asking our significant other or spouse. So jump into that boot camp because you got nothing to lose but those extra pounds. You got everything to gain in the right way. The links to connect with me and get into my world, including that boot camp that I just talked to, will be below all Chris's stuff in the description as well. And that's how you guys can get into my world. Chris, do you have any last minute thoughts?
Not right now, but I guess the biggest thing would be is, don't be hesitant about getting yourself on track when it comes to your finances because that's one of the biggest stresses that most people have. And when, speaking of, weight loss and so forth, one of the biggest things that causes people to gain weight is being stressed out,
Mhm.
not knowing how to handle the bills every month. And it can cause some bad eating habits and so forth. So, but, you know, health is also wealth, and I'm definitely an advocate for that. I'm definitely big into working out and eating healthy and so forth myself because if you want to live a long life, I think those are important things to add in, and it makes you feel so much better. But
100%.
getting under control of your finances and getting under control of your health are two of the biggest things that you can do for yourself and for the people that you love.
100%. 100%. So good. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on this show. I am so excited that I was able to have you interview you. I got to be honest, this is a subject I don't know a lot about. And so I was a little I always get a little nervous when I have somebody that I interview and I don't know a lot about a particular topic that they're about to talk about. But I got to be honest, like this was it had just such an amazing flow. I really enjoyed our conversation and I feel like I have a lot more clarity on
That's
this
good.
than I did during our pre-interview that we had, because during our pre-interview I was just like, I have no clue what in the world I'm going to do. So, yeah, Chris, it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you for your clarity. Thank you for
Yeah,
your
it was enjoyable.
simplicity. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'd love to do it again. If you come up with different topics that you want to maybe pinpoint and get more deep
Oh,
dived into certain
100%.
things, we could definitely do that.
Absolutely.
The finance world it's so vast. There's so many different things that can be taught about.
100%. 100%. All right, you guys. Well, that is a wrap. Have a great rest of the day or evening, depending on where you are in the world and what time of day you are listening. We'll catch you on the next one.